How's it going, everybody? This is Tristan Summer with Serenity Impact. Well, guys, today we're going to be getting into our next lesson, which would be stress, health, and goals. All right. Now, obviously, guys, we all can probably list different ways that we feel stress, but what is stress per se? All right. So it's mental or physical tension or pressure. All right. Some cases your head might feel like it's about to explode. You have so much stress or pressure going on. And I want you guys during this whole lesson, I want you guys to be thinking actively about yourself and applying all these things to you, because you're the only person that you can work with and can control. So I want you guys to think about, what things come to mind when you hear the word stress. Okay. And has anyone here, can we all agree, should I say, that we've all experienced stress on some fashion, level, or form? So when do we experience stress? At home? Could be with your friends, or, it could be when we don't have enough money. There are different ways that people experience stress. It might be because, you had to stay home and watch your brother and sister for a whole week, or it might be because you had to drive behind, I guess you could say the wheel of a car, especially while, everything's cold and it's been icy. Those kind of situations, they can cause stress or promote that stress within. So what do people do with stress? Do most of us deal with it? Do we deal with it accordingly? And do we avoid it? I guess, yeah, do we avoid it, or, do we just sit there and still feel stressed? Do we handle the stress, or do we just, continue to allow it to build and fester on us? And, kind of one thing I want to throw out while I'm talking about stress, guys, because a lot of times when we're stressed, we tend to, I don't want to say panic, but get kind of stuck in some kind of like phase or mirage, or however you want to describe it. I want to share with you guys what the definition of insanity is. And the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result. Okay. So I'm saying that so that, we can kind of broaden our horizons with this conversation and be open-minded, because possibly what we have going on right now is not helping us get, where we need to be or out of those circumstances of stress. Okay. So identifying stress. There are 3 basic types of stress. All right. You have dull or minor stress. All right. So that could be, you got this guy frustrated right now. He could have a headache. He's obviously got some kind of work or something going on in front of him. So, just kind of simple things, everyday, common, here or there things, nothing dramatic or big. All right. Then we have the aching or ongoing stress. And, we could say by this time, if this amount of stress or this pressure of stress, you could be feeling some of these results. It could be body aches. Your muscles might feel tight. You ever just, got worked up, and then afterwards your muscle or like your shoulders feel real like tight and clenched up together. Restlessness, obsessive thinking about the same thing. All right. And increased irritability. A lot of people definitely experience irritability when stressed. And it's, guys, it's a natural effect and cause, but it's not something I want to say that we should just focus in on. And then another thing that happens during this process is sometimes we result to sadness and hopelessness. All right. And then the last one is sudden and traumatic. And, you could say that this is, I guess you could say like death, or there's an accident, something unexpected. And, one thing that I also wanted to pinpoint while we're talking about sudden and traumatic experiences, the results of this level, and this is a high level of stress, but the result of that, guys, sometimes, I'm sure you guys have heard this word or this phrase thrown around, PTSD. And more or less, I know, we hear these phrases and not everyone explains them to us, but PTSD, guys, is a mental health condition that is triggered by a terrifying event. And, those experiences or those who, have experienced it or witnessed it, symptoms that, this can conclude or include, should I say, would be flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about the event. So it's not something that just can be completely manned and just controlled. Sometimes these things, they work their ways out of us. Okay. So what works for you guys? And that's what, like I said, that's what I want you guys to be thinking is what works for you. I want you to be thinking about how, we can better help your situation or how you manage your stress. All right. So the first question I want you guys to think about in this slide is, are there things that make stress worse? Okay. For me, if I'm feeling really stressed out, people coming and bombarding me and trying to add more to my load, or just, and sometimes they don't realize they're doing that, but just people coming to me and trying to, give me more than what's already on my plate when I'm already scrambling as it is, that stresses me out. Okay. For you, it could be different. People coming to you might help you out more, but for me, when I'm stressed out, I like to focus. All right. And the second one is there something that really helps you with stress? Okay. And that, that'll move us over into our next slide, but I want you to think about that. Are there things that help you with stress? A really common one that people do is exercise. Exercise is it's an ideal way for both your physical and your mental to get that fine tuning, as I would put it. Okay. So when dealing with stress, I just kind of used a word, which was cope. And, we're going to be breaking that down into an acronym. So the first letter of cope would stand for consider alternatives, or like consider other ways, kind of like I talked about with insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again gives you the same result. Now we've got to consider different ways that we can go about this, when dealing with stress. For others' support. Guys, there's, and I can say this openly, there's probably not a, successful person in this world who didn't at some part in their journey have to work with other people or have to utilize the resources of other people, even if it's just a conversation with somebody, to get them where they're going. So understand that having other people's support is extremely important. All right. Problem solving. Being able to break it down instead of allowing it all just to pile up. Will Smith put it, very simply one time. He said that you don't set out to build the Great Wall of China. You simply place one brick at a time, and you make sure that brick is placed as perfectly as you can do so. All right. So sometimes it's not about the whole lot of things. You just have to take it step by step. And then lastly, our esteem building. Okay. Boosting ourselves, our morale, how we look at ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about things around us. There are a lot of different ways to cope. All right. I know you see the screen right now and you're probably like, what is going on? That's a lot for me to read, but guys, don't worry about it. I'm just going to pick a few out of here, honestly, by random. So saying no more often, one thing I'll resort to is phones. People think that because, you have a phone, that you are pretty much at their beck and call whenever they please. And, guys, there was a time where people didn't have phones and you had to travel, hours or a few days to go see somebody. And yeah, it's convenient, but sometimes, and again, I can only speak for myself. You get stressed out in situations when either you have a lot going on or you have a lot expected of you, and that phone, is just there and you're like, okay, so-and-so is going to call me, or I have to wait for this and I have to wait for that. And it just kind of builds you up. And guys, you don't always have to say yes. You don't always have to go hang out with your friend. All right. You're allowed to have time to yourself. You don't always have to, and I'm not telling anyone to make any poor decisions or disobey family orders or anything, but you don't always have to go hang out with the family if that's not how you're feeling. It's okay to have time to yourself. All right. Be prepared for rain. All right. Let's be obvious, guys. Let's be, evident. Things can get hard sometimes. And, I'm sure no one in here is probably thinking that the world is all peaches and cream, because we know it's not. We have to be prepared for things that could happen, things that could come. And, it's a part of thinking about our futures. And believing in you, believing in yourself. You're the person that you need most to get through everything. So believing in yourself. So considering alternatives, that is the first acronym for our letter and the word cope, and that's our C. And stressed decisions often equal not great decisions. And after that, guys, I want you to think about, what do you do in that moment? What happens when you're under that great pressure of stress, that great amount of stress? How do you go about dealing with it? How do you go about thinking about it? And the last time that you faced with a stressful decision, how did you go about making that decision? Did it come out the way that you wanted it to? She didn't make the best step. The best thought process did not come out of her action where she stepped, and she fell all up in that mud. All right, so the next thing that I'm gonna have, guys, is a very simple, short activity. All right, it's gonna take less than 2 minutes. All right, so what I'm gonna have you do is get a sheet of paper and a pencil, and I want you to either write, scribble, or you can draw on a blank sheet. And I want you to be thinking about what stresses you out. Okay? So, guys, this activity is really, like I said, it's simple, but it's really more so just to kind of build your awareness, because I find that a lot of times these are things that people don't think about. And, not even, just because they have a problem with it in peculiar, but it's just easier not to focus on the things that we don't like about life. So this is really just for your knowledge. You're welcome to either keep this and use it as a tool or a resource for you later, or you can throw it away. That's all up to you. So the second letter or part of this acronym would be O, and that's other support. Helping each other out, okay? I can't say that enough. We need other people. This world is functioned off of everyone's, I guess you could say, input as a whole. Everyone putting forth their work as a whole, not just individuals. This takes, a lot of people to, for anything to, to build or to create. And, what's the best project other than yourself? So, I want you guys to think, is there someone that you can talk to about your stress? Because I know it's important to have people that you feel are, trustworthy. You don't want to, not everyone wants to talk to a stranger. There are some people who feel more comfortable like that, but let's try to find somebody that we trust, that we can talk to about the things that we're dealing with. And as well, I want you to think about, the person that you're talking to, that you're communicating with. Is it, someone who I guess you could say that maybe you look up to, or maybe you respect the way that they go about with dealing with things. I think it's important to, talk to someone who reflects a better half of what you would like to see for yourself. But, to each his own, you guys have to make that decision for yourself. So the third would be problem solving, having a plan. So, starting off with questions to ask yourself, what's causing the stress? Okay. So earlier we did a little activity to where we could, kind of identify things that cause us stress or that is stressing us out. All right. Do you know the full story? And more or less, no, we don't always have I guess you could say, the full answer to what is the stressor, what is causing us all the stress, but we can usually pinpoint little things of where we remember the glimpse of whatever it is. The third would be, how do I usually handle this type of thing? All right. What are your usual outcomes when you're dealing with this type of stress or this type of situation? And then lastly, what are your options? These are all things that you can start doing, to open that conversation, open that idea, to yourself, and to start trying to process and work through it. And the last one will be esteem building, and that's going to look like accepting yourself. All right. And what are ways that we can learn to accept ourselves? All right. That would be asking yourself questions like, what are your strengths? Okay. Your strengths don't just have to be, random things that I have right here, guys. Your strengths could be things that you feel good about with yourself. Okay. For me, I might say that I'm a strong speaker. For you, you might say that you're a strong swimmer. I don't know. Everyone's strengths are different. The next question, what do you do? What do you enjoy doing? Sorry, I always stumble over my words, guys, because I'm trying to say things before I even, before they're coming out of my mouth. So, what do you enjoy doing? Could be this guy over here, Joe Cool up on the left. He's just hanging out outdoors. You might be somebody who enjoys in the environment. This person's going to the movies by themselves. I've personally never done that, but I've heard of friends doing that, and they have a good time. Could be buying yourself a gift. There are plenty of people whose love language is gift giving, and sometimes, hey, what's better than to give to yourself? Yeah. So everyone, can experience things differently, obviously. And then the third is, what are you good at? Different things that you're good at. And I kind of want to put into perspective, because a lot of people would think, or a lot of people might say that, well, I'm good at getting money, or, that's something that I enjoy doing. And I mean, yeah, in retrospect, having money makes life easier. And a lot of people, yeah, who wouldn't enjoy having extra money so that you don't have to worry about things, right? But I mentioned Will Smith earlier, and the reason I do this is because he's someone that I look up to, that I respect, and I see the works that he's put in. I've been a part of the lifespan to see that works and how he's got to where he's at from a fan point. And one thing that I was listening to him talk about in an interview was that when he traded professions from being a rapper to being a sitcom actor or a movie actor, he didn't trade professions because of the money. Okay, he said that he traded professions because he was more passionate about something else. And at that time, it was rap, and then it became acting. But he said often that when we trade things for money, we make poor decisions. In the midst of that, somewhere there are poor decisions that are made because you're not really fulfilling yourself. You're just filling a void that you think that you want. So, quality of life. What do you guys think when you hear quality of life? Well, the quality of life, guys, is living as close to fulfilling one's dreams as possible. And that could break out into things such as good health, success, which, might I add, success is measured upon everyone differently, because your idea of success could look different than mine. All right. Your idea of success might be riding go-karts. My idea of success might be riding on a hot air balloon. I don't know. But I mean, everyone's got different ideas of things that complete them and make them wholesome. And then the ability to do what we want. So, another question I want you guys to ask yourself is, what do you want out of life? What are your dreams, and what are you doing to get there? Are you on a good path that's, headed that way? And I want you guys to know that it's never too late to start dreaming. Okay? There's never a time in your life where you're not going to be allowed to, you're not going to be capable of it. You just have to decide to. And I know that it's easy to get caught up in our day-to-day life. Just, like I said, if you have a job, you're going to school, then, you're doing both of those. If you're in an athletic club, you have different, I don't want to say obligations, but, when it comes to putting yourself first, those things, sometimes come first before taking care of the things that mean most to us. So I'm just saying, again, that I know it's hard. I know it's easy to get caught up into, our everyday life, but it's good to think about the path that is ahead and to help set a plan for, the future. And at the end, guys, the real deal with stress is that it's a part of life. Everyone has to, deal with it, but at the same time, everyone learns how to cope with it differently. And, the evidence is that we can't control stress. It's always going to be here because there's always going to be pressing factors or pressing situations in our life that we don't have control of. But what we do have control of is how we respond to it. There's a phrase that said, it's not what happens to us, but how we respond to what happens to us. And it's very important in life. You either choose to make the poor decisions and get the results of that, or you make the right decisions and you reap the fruit of that. So, guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in with me this week. I can't wait to see you guys next week. So take it easy.